Hey everyone, this is Olay from Laddering Your Success, and you're listening to the LYS Podcast. All right. Good afternoon. Welcome one, welcome all. Thank you for listening to another episode of Edge Steps powered by Laddering Your Success. As always, I am your host, Olay with my good friend Festus and Olay. Festus, how you doing today?
Great. It's great to be here, man. Great to be here.
All right, massages and burp hoops. That's what it's all about here this weekend. Also honored to be here with the future doctor, Dr. Jamar Crawford. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Happy to be a part of this.
Awesome. So thankful for having you. And of course, the ambassador, the one and only. You need a crest now. I'm gonna have to give you a crest. Every week, give you a new step added on. It's like levels. Huh? What'd you say?
Pin right here. I'm putting a pin right here.
There you go. The one, the only Daniel Hill. How you doing today?
Man, I'm good, man. Good. Just chilling.
Awesome. Real quick, I want to say we got a teammate from high school, Andrew Eisner, who always reposts our sessions, and I something told me, I was like, I got to give him a shout out. I'm gonna give him a shout out on Facebook as well. But
shout out Eisner.
I mean,
that part
as often or as consistent as we are in doing this, he is just as consistent in sharing whatever we do. And just want to take a quick second to thank you, Andrew, for loving what we do and without question, just throwing our stuff out there. We really appreciate it, man. Thank you. God bless you, man. Thank you so much for that. So let's continue talking about what we're talking about today. Is going to be part 2 on our discussion about generations, but reverse mentoring, right? Generations and reverse mentoring. And they pretty much go hand in hand, because reverse mentoring is an older group or older generation communicating, staying in close contact with another generation, a younger generation, and sharing information. And so quickly, what I want to do is I just want to go over the generations that we talked about last week, what they went through, and then we can build upon those points today for the second part. So last week, we talked about the lost generation. That is the group of people born in between 1893 and 1900. What did they deal with in their lifetime? Well, they dealt with World War I, mass production of the Model T, prohibition, women's right to vote, right? Then we have the greatest generation. That's 1901 to 1924. That's a period of time where people were born in between 1901 and 1924. They dealt with the Great Depression, the New Deal, World War II, and Pearl Harbor. After that, we have the silent generation. That's a group of people born between 1925 and 1945. In that time period, that 20-year birth period, those folks had to deal with the Korean War, the space race and the moon landing, McCarthyism, and Cold War. After that, we have one of the largest or most popular ones, when we talked about a lot. A lot of our parents were born in this generation. That's the baby boomers. That's a period of 1946 to 1964. They dealt with the Vietnam War and the protests involving the Vietnam War. They dealt with Watergate, which led to President Richard Nixon's resignation. They had Woodstock, the Summer of Love, JFK, Martin Luther King Jr., Robert Kennedy, Malcolm X were assassinated. I think you can also add in there Bobby Seale of the Black Panthers. I think there were a couple others. I'm not sure. In Cuba, the Che Guevara. I'm not sure if this was around that time too, but I know the Bay of Pigs, all these things were happening at this time, right? Also, TV becomes mainstream in homes. Then you have Generation X. This is the period of birth between 1965 and 1980. They dealt with the fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of the Cold War, the AIDS epidemic, and the premiere of MTV. Shout out for those of you who know that. Then we have the Millennials, group of period of birth between 1981 and 1996. They dealt with 9/11, Barack Obama's election, the Great Recession, and the rise of global internet. Then we have Gen Z, or as I like to say, Gen Zers. a group of folks born in between 1997 and 2012. They dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic, Me Too movement, George Floyd and racial justice protests, overturn of Roe v. Wade, Trump election, Brexit, Supreme Court ruling on same-sex marriage, right? So that's a quick recap into the generations that we talked about last week. First thing I want to get into is, what is the exchange? What is the exchange when you have an older group that is interacting, intermingling, communicating, associating with a younger generation, a younger group? What is the exchange? First thing there I want us to talk about. And anyone can pick that up. What's the exchange that those two generations or three generations, right, that they share, that can be exchanged? And okay, well, let me go on, because I have some thoughts on that. I think obviously the first thing that any older generation can give a young generation, and some young generations can give older generations, is wisdom. There's a certain level of experience that comes, right, with age. And I think that's one of the most important things that can be imparted into the next generation. Well, a quote that I love, shout out to my boy Tim, who had African Dad, which was like a shirt company. And he would take African quotes and sayings and put them on shirts. And one of the ones that I have is, it says, the elder can see sitting down what the young one cannot see standing up. So, you can imagine, the kids standing up and looking and saying, oh, it's over there, we can do this, we can do that. And then you have the old wise person just sitting down saying, no, don't do that. Go do this, go do that. Go do this, go do that. And it's just, in the ease of their age and their wisdom, they can impart so much wisdom to the young ones who have all this energy. And I think that helps them a lot as they move along. Now, the same thing kind of goes for younger generations. Younger generations, especially when there's a new major innovation, a new major change, a new major shift, the young ones are usually the ones to take advantage and run and pick those things up quickly. And I think in that case, you have the younger generations who can impart a lot to the older generations. They can use their wisdom, impart with the experience of young people, and use that to make something very powerful. So that's one of the first things I see there. Anyone else? You guys have any thoughts on that as far as exchanges of information?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think, when you look at just humanity, right? To me, the whole purpose of humanity at a very basic level is to thrive, right? And so I think, one of the big things to me is, especially those who, quote unquote, got out the mud, what I'm saying? People like myself, you gentlemen, I think it's one of those things where it's like, okay, how do I go from surviving, just getting by, to thriving? And I think that a big element of that is how we resource and share information, right? Because again, we talk about some of the stuff in the LYS book about just different pieces of information and what you do with them, right? People talk about generational wealth goals and different types of things like that. And one of the 5 tools for wealth creation or wealth building is usually technology, right? Kind of like what you were saying. And so the fact that when you have a generation, like, especially as you talked about millennials is that generation who really grew up with computers as computers grew up. So they were kind of growing alongside of us, you know what I'm saying? Well, now you got the new generation, and it's like computers always been here. And if you 30 in this generation, you old as dirt. And it's like, don't be 60, you know what I'm saying? And so the thing is, to me, how can those who are millennials help Gen Z and Gen ? Survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then thrive.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, I think those things are really, really important, you know.
One of the takeaways from what you guys have shared, for me, I agree with both of you as far as, the older generation being able to provide wisdom. I think that the younger generation are able to provide the older generation with perspective of the current climate and things that are going on, because times do change, climates do shift, the social climate do shift, and I feel like the younger generation is able to provide us with perspective and insight on how they view the world as of today, whether we agree or disagree with that, but just even certain things like the change of pronouns and different aspects of people being more emotionally aware and things of that nature. So, perspective.
Mhm. Absolutely. I think that's major. I think that's definitely key, especially nowadays. I think that's huge. I think one of the biggest things I've had to understand, especially as a teacher, is this generation that we have now. You want to call them soft? Like, man, this generation, they soft, you know. But I think it's like that hard line where they're trying to figure out themselves because, I think when you think about the terms that are very popular, how it affects the younger ones, because I think the term that we used to always talk about is like emotional intelligence, right? And we used to talk about EI and how, kids can pick up certain things. And, Crawford, you brought up a great point of like, now, when it comes to perspective, a lot of our children are kind of creating their own systems for themselves on how they choose to accept things and how they choose to be emotional about certain things. And so that's definitely one of those things that's like, that dialogue has to be open with those of an older generation and with those of a younger generation. All right. Ambassador, did you have anything you wanted to spill on us?
You so nice. They soft. That's all. I'll be the one that goes against the grain. They ain't helped me with nothing. No, I ain't gonna lie though. These kids do be teaching me stuff sometimes. I might be learning some stuff. And all y'all said it though, pretty much summing up. They can show you this certain things, what's going on, and then but then we can teach them other things. I just don't be like, the difference I guess between them and us now is like, we used to take some advice or a lot more advice. They don't really want to listen to advice like that much. Or if they do, I just don't be seeing it sometimes. Like some of these kids you can talk to all day. I'd be like, bro, you just don't get it. But no, y'all all right, man. These kids can teach y'all some stuff, You might teach me nothing though. I'm playing.
You bring up a really important, that was actually the next point I wanted to go into. Was, I'm not going to say where it's at because y'all know I've been telling y'all, have y'all been to this, y'all been to this community center, y'all been here, y'all been there. It's okay if we say it. I don't think it matters that much. It's poignant and it's important. I think about my dad who was born he's a baby boomer, I think. Yeah, he's baby boomer. And, my parents have been going to this community center couple weeks now. They've been really, really enjoying it. And I remember I went there for a class, and as I was walking around, I saw bags of chips already on the floor. It's such a nice place, but the community, the folks that were in there, I don't think they were really, there was no real sense of community in terms of taking care of your space, taking care of your area. You're a reflection of what's around you. You create that reflection, right? So like I said, I saw some chip bags on the floor. I saw one of the security guards coming in and talking to some of the kids and telling them, basically helping them understand how to take care of your area, right? You're young, you're in high school, you're teenagers, but this is still a community place for everyone to enjoy. And I had the conversation with my dad. I said, I wanted to tell those kids, like, y'all can pick those things up, just helping them understand certain things. You can pick that stuff up. You can do this. You can clean that. And in our heads, we automatically, me and my dad both looked at each other like, that'll never happen. We'll get cursed out before we even get a chance to really explain or let them understand what we're trying to do or what we're trying to tell them. And I think the even more unfortunate part is the parents will, a lot of times, these parents will side with the kids instead of siding with adults, people that are just like them. A lot of times parents will find a reason or excuse to say, well, why is it my child that you're talking to about this? There's so many other kids that are doing this.
Can I hop on this real quick?
Please go ahead. You're the parent, so go ahead.
So, well, I think the thing is, when you talk about the word community, you're bringing together two words, right? Common and unity, right? And the thing is, whenever you have a community, number one, you have to see the commonalities first. And I think right now we're so fractured in society, we don't see the things that are in common with us. You know what I mean? Because especially just this idea of like, I hate to put it this way, but it is this way. The reality is I'm so special. And so when you're so special and you're not able to see what's special about other people, right? You lose commonality, you lose ability to connect with them, right? Because literally, if you look at the definition of the word special, it's kind of like to set apart, right? Which it's interesting because there's connections between something being special and a spiritual word of holiness, right? And so it's like I'm so special, right? And see, like we don't really make that connection. You know what I mean? That people make themselves so special that they can't connect with anybody else. Well, then here comes the unity part. So with unity, there's togetherness. So the thing is to have things in common with people and then to be unified with them, right, is there's similarities and then there's this togetherness and connectedness, how we operate. And I think those are the things that are lost on a lot of people, which is why we're getting this like, okay, I see them putting something on the ground, but I'm not even sure I want to say anything to them because of the feedback that might come with it. You know what I mean? And I think this is where the older generation really needs to start checking ourselves. And I'm putting us in that category only because the younger people put us in that category, not because we're in that category, right? So
we don't want to be it is what it is.
Yeah, we need to check ourselves on okay, let me go ahead and get the cuss out, rather than just like mentally like, is this going to happen? You know what I'm saying? Because then that way we're challenged on like, do they good day, so he's good. Are they going to appreciate what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Because when our mind goes to the negative, we're also setting ourselves apart from them. And so this is the thing is like the othering, you know what I'm saying? It goes multiple, it's very dynamic. Let me put it that way. It's not just, racists are othering themselves. No, everybody's othering themselves when they see themselves more special than other people. And that's the thing is like, oftentimes we use it as a form of self-esteem. You know what I'm saying? Like me putting you down is really what's my self-esteem. Me saying that I'm special is my self-esteem. But in order for it to make me special, I got to make you less than. That's self-esteem. You see what I'm saying? And sadly, this is what's taught in schools, is to say that if somebody is different than you, or they have quote unquote a particular uniqueness, that they are somehow a little bit more special than other people. And this is one thing I used to teach the kids a lot, is that you are special, but you're not more special than anybody else. You know what I mean? Because there's something unique about each of us, but that doesn't make you better than anybody else as a person. Does that make sense? Like you could be a better athlete, you could be a better singer, you could be a better, whatever your talent or skill is, but in your intrinsic value as a person is not more valuable than anybody else. And unfortunately, where in America, where everything is commoditized, you know what I'm saying? Now humans have become the commodity. And it's like, you're better because you can make more money with that talent or that skill. You know what I'm saying? So I'll kind of pause right there, but there's just some thoughts.
Oh, awesome. It's almost like a caste type system, a new caste that we've placed. So I definitely see that in that perspective. But you brought something up that I really want to. Oh, Crawford, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to, when I was listening to, your example about the community center, then what Festus was responding to him with.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. Thanks so much for listening to LYS. I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk to the parents. That's right, mom and dad. Parents, prepare your child for their best educational fit after high school with our comprehensive LYS Parents Guidebook. Our helpful guide includes a range of activities designed to help you better understand your child's unique gifts and abilities. Additionally, we provide valuable insights into the student loan debt crisis and offer practical tips on how to avoid accumulating large amounts of debt. Our ebook also includes a wealth of information on scholarships, grants, and payment exemptions that can help guide your child towards a bright and successful future. With our expert guidance, you can rest assured that your child is well prepared to make informed decisions about their education and career path. Don't let your child's future be in jeopardy. Invest in their future today by downloading the LYS Parents Guidebook. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to the show because it's some good topics.
In my mind, what I was thinking about was us as people, just all of us, young and old or whatever, it's like our minds, for whatever reason, are trained to view others as the opposition. So when I'm listening to the scenario, and when Festus is giving an example of, well, I don't know if I should say something to them because they're going to respond like this and this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking, because I'm that person that do address other people, kids, I am that person. And even when I do that, the example like you gave, the parents having an issue with that and talking about how he broke down the word community, which is common, we have a common goal and we achieve it together. And if the common goal is to keep this community center neat and clean so we can continue to use it and grow it, so then that's a common goal that we have. But then if I address the kid to help, hey, pick this up, well, you're not my father or this and this and that. It's like, yo, I'm not the opposition. We're working towards the same goal. And I think about that because I remember I was working at Active Athlete, a shoe store, and my job was the store designer, where I'm setting up the clothes and with around different fixtures. Now the fixtures by themselves are removed off the wall and set in a construction area where I'm removing things from, but it's dangerous for kids to like run around because these fixtures have sharp ends. And so I hear the mother tell the child to stay seated because he's running around. The kid does not listen to the mother. He does what he wants to do. And the teacher and me took over. Like I'm just observing while I'm doing my job, but he's constantly running around. And I sternly tell him to sit down. Immediately sits down. No fuss, no nothing. Well, the mom hears. Now the mom has an issue and she addresses me. Notice the mom told the child to stop running, sit down. The child did not listen. I reinforced her redirection. The child listened. We had a common goal. The problem is she's viewing me as the opposition because that's not my child. But I just helped you reach the goal, which was to make the child sit down. Now, what she did when she addressed me was undone everything that I've just done, which will support her, because since she addressed me in front of that child, don't talk to my child, da 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 da. You know what he did? Got up and started running around. So now she's so far behind mentally because you just undid what I did to support you. Now the kid is back up running around. Now it's a safety hazard because, again, I am not the child's father. And so when I think about that word community and common goal, it's like even in the classroom or in the school, I see so many times we have class or school expectations. And if I see a class not following those expectations and I address that class, we have teachers who are having an issue. Hey, I'm supporting you. We're not in opposition. We have a common goal, which is to uphold the school expectations. And so that's what kind of just come to me, because we get so territorial when we have a common goal. When we can work together, we can achieve that goal better and more efficiently. So just my 2 cents on that.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm gonna let you go, Festus. You pointed. I know you wanted to say something.
No, I was because I think Dr. Crawford came on to a really, really powerful point.
Absolutely.
Is this and I'm a man, I do want to go into some other stuff on the term mentoring versus discipleship and different types of things like that, but I will save that for a whole nother day. I probably won't. I probably will still get on it. But yeah, so the big thing is I think Crawford was hitting the nail on the head in terms of having the same goal, right? Because a community should have some alignment with its goals, right? That's what keeps you common unity, right? And I like this illustration, right? It's like the Metro bus. You might get on at the same time, but you might have 2 different stops. And sometimes you just need to know where your stop is with certain people. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't have the same destination necessarily. And I think that's the thing that people really need to start getting hip to, especially in this fractured world, fractured economy, fractured society, is finding your tribe and understanding what the common goals are. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing is, again, as Crawford so illustrated in that point, listening to adult authority should be something that we should have our kids at minimum considering. I get it nowadays. I get it because I got little kids. I don't want you to listen to everybody, because some of these people literally smoke crack and are considered authorities on certain things. It's not even funny no more. Like, some of these people are co-signing insanity.
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay once again. You know, these days, many families are busy, but want personalized attention. We at Laddering Your Success understand this dilemma and have created a unique approach to help guide you and your child with personal development tools to build a life of purpose. This intimate approach is helpful for those parents that feel the need to have a focused heart-to-heart conversation deciding on the next steps after high school. We provide individual post-secondary planning, virtual customized college and career counseling, and scholarship guidance and planning. Our one-on-one sessions are tailored to each individual student to maximize their potential in the post-secondary realm. With our guidance, your child will be able to make their dreams a reality. Don't wait. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to business on this podcast.
People are literally co-signing insanity. They're co-signing mental health issues. I'm not saying you shouldn't come and support people who have mental health issues. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you are getting behind a person who has a mental health issue and telling them that that's okay. And I talked to somebody about this before. It was a social worker. I was like, yo, I think this is a mistake. And they was like, nah, because there's objective standards and tests that are used. What is the objective standard for public discourse? You see what I'm saying? So, and let me back up and break that down. When a person who has a clear mental health issue, right? Literally, if you go in what's called the DSM-5, okay? The DSM-5 is the standard for mental health issues. And you go in there and you see something that is a mental health issue, okay? For example, and I'm not going to get on gender dysphoria only as a mental health issue. Multiple personality disorder is a mental health issue. And now you got all these people showing up with literal multiple personalities, right? You don't know who you're talking to, and you're patting them on the back. And I'm not saying these people shouldn't have jobs, or I'm not saying these people shouldn't be part of society, but we need to know that person has a mental health issue. And the whole point of a mental health issue, for those who don't know, is that reality is distorted for that person. And people don't realize is like, yes, it happens on a spectrum. It does happen on a spectrum. So the thing is, once you get outside of a certain zone of acceptability, you're nuts, okay? You're crazy. And the thing is, why does all of this matter when it comes to mentoring, when it comes to families, when it comes to community? Is that when we co-sign people who don't have our best interests and we don't understand the aligned goals, we're co-signing train wrecks. And I think that's kind of what Crawford was getting to, is like, yo, this is now a health and safety hazard, this kid running around. Because sure enough, he hits his head, he pokes his eye out, you're gonna want to sue, right? You see what I'm saying? Oh, you're gonna want help. That doesn't make any sense. Your kid's at the playground, somebody's like, yo, you might want to be careful. Don't talk to my kid. Boom, they fall, they break their leg, they break their arm. You're like, oh, I don't want to sue the city. And it's like, do you understand? And this is why so many adults are having problems right now. So many millennials, Gen Z, like Gen Z's now in their 20s. Because we're 37, I'm 37, so they're 27, 28.
Yeah.
And they don't understand why they keep bumping their heads in life. And it's because when you have years and years and years of no guardrails, of no psychological, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should pause and think it through, right? You're in for a train wreck.
Man, definitely. Oh, those are some beautiful points. I know you were serious there when you're talking about crack, but my referencing mind, when you talked about that, all I could think about was that Stephen A. Smith, when he was talking about Phil Jackson. And he said,
I see that one. Go ahead.
Stephen A. goes, Phil Jackson's first move was to sign Lamar Odom, who was on crack in like the middle of first. Stephen A.'s trip. And then when you said DSM-5, I was like, that sounds like a Future album.
Exactly.
That's what came to your mind.
That's
New
what
Jack City came to my mind. New Jack City came to my mind. Chris Rock.
No, but you brought up those points were so key. And what you, Festus, said and what Crawford said really helped me, because y'all just basically answered the second question before I even had a chance to go to it, which was how do we deal with these things? And I think, as even when I gave the example of me and my dad, making sure we convey commonalities. We don't even realize it, but we are so get off my lawn, right? As that generation, because we already said, we feel as if we feel, but we can't say for certain that if we do try to correct the younger generation, that they won't be accepting, right? They won't be willing to take in what we give. But I think a powerful thing that we can do is making sure that we convey the commonality, making sure we convey our common goal. Crawford, when you gave the example of the mother at Active Athlete, I asked myself, as you gentlemen were talking, I asked myself, I said, what if Crawford told that young lady, well, what did you tell him to do? You told him to sit, right? I did what you did, and it worked. So why are you mad at me? Something just that simple. That's where my mind went to. She couldn't see that Crawford wasn't trying to take over the situation. He was trying to assist the mom in establishing her expectation. But it goes back to what y'all said about self-esteem, right? In order to lift herself up, she had to bring you down instead of seeing it as the child, right? And I think that was the biggest sense that we had. I can't tell you how many random people used to spank me when I was growing up at church. I can't
Now,
tell you.
wow. Now,
One
wow.
of the first ones was Mrs. Adesanya.
She beat everybody.
He beat everyone. Everybody got beat. And I remember because she was I had an arm like this. That she held my arm like this, and I was running. She was just catching me. And I'm like, dang, man, I'll never forget. There was a woman, Mrs. Martins, Buki's mom. She was my Sunday school teacher. I can't believe I'm about to tell this story. Oh my goodness. Buki's mom was she was so strict. That woman used to just pop me. She worked for A-Leaf for some time. I remember, I can't believe I'm about to say this. She made me so mad one day at Sunday school at church. I took a banana and I stuck it in her tailpipe. I ran away. But that's community. That is community. You know, we all had a common goal. There was all a common goal within that community for the children, right? There was a lot of discipline. There was a certain amount of respect that you had to have for your elders, a certain way that you had to treat people. There was a common language, right? It's one of those things, if you want more information, that's definitely a big part of LYS, definitely right there in the book. But there was just that commonality. I saw my mom. She used to pop kids doing things they weren't supposed to do. So that is such a powerful point. I think that's probably the biggest thing I'm going to take from that, because now I'm going to practice this when I go back to the community center. I think that's a really important thing. I think that's super. I can't tell you guys, that's super, super powerful. If there's one thing we take from this, and if you're listening to this, one thing you take, making sure we convey commonalities, right? Especially with younger generations. Go ahead, Festus.
Yeah, man. And I want to say this to both regards is I think now it's really important, especially as those who are establishing themselves as community leaders, tribe leaders, to seek a form of permission, right? But not to always ask for permission, right? When one thing that I think is, because especially now I've been doing a lot of research on cultural movements, on things like the civil rights movement, right? When they were doing these marches and these sit-ins, they weren't asking for permission. They weren't like, hey, can we do a sit-in here? Is that okay with you? You know what I'm saying? They would just strategize and organize to do the sit-in. Hey, we're going here on such and such date. These are the particular things that we need to do in order to accomplish our goal of this sit-in. However, there was a particular outcome that they were looking for in doing whatever it is that they were doing, right? Which was more rights, et cetera, whatever. Now, if you look today, a lot of people are not looking for permission when they're putting stuff on the internet that rottens people's minds, okay? That is filthy, that is just full of degradation. People aren't looking for permission. But when it comes to doing the right thing, all of a sudden you are then harassed. And I think this is the trouble with like trying to do the right thing, is like seeking that form of permission. So it's like, hey, do you want help? Hey, can I say something to your kid? You know what I'm saying? I think there needs to be kind of this quick like, hey, you know what I'm saying? Are we here? Mm-hmm. Why? Because, and this is the thing I'm really happy about. I know this is going to sound very, very sad. I'm happy when people get the consequence that they deserve. Okay? I'm very happy for it, because there's a difference between needs and wants. Okay? You should always get what you need. Right? And sometimes people need the ill effect of consequences of bad ideas in order to show that it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's sad though. It's really sad, because the hope is not to get there. You know, I was watching this little clip of Andy Griffith's show. Y'all remember Andy Griffith? And so in the show, there was a guy who was talking to Andy Griffith, and they were talking about his son, and he said, well, you know, there was an older guy, and he's like, well, why don't we let the boy decide, right? Between my opinion or your opinion, let him decide. And so Andy Griffith said, yeah, that's not how it works. He said, because he's a boy and he's young, he's always going to go for what's shiny and what feels good. So as an adult, I need to try to protect them by looking at the long run, right? And the thing is, right now, for a lot of people, they don't think that there's consequences behind ideas, as we discussed last week, because they don't look at history, right? They don't look at history. So, and this is the amazing part. You don't have to explore every consequence for yourself. You don't. But a lot of people do. I don't know why. I don't know why you want to be a crash test dummy. Okay? You want to crash into the wall just because it's not necessary. And that is, I think, the point of mentorship and even reverse mentorship, because the older generation who's not looking at technology, not looking at the technological transformation, is not seeing the possibilities that these young people are getting into. Whereas the young people aren't seeing the consequences of having too much money too soon, of being overinvested in a bag, and all of these different kind of things. Because people have done that before. Because of this, and I'll kind of start landing my plane here, is that a lot of these things that are happening in human history, even though you have new technology, the basis of the human being has really not changed. If you really, really study humans and humans' behavior, the basis of human behavior has not changed. It really hasn't. So when you look at people who are overly invested in, we got this new tech and this new AI and this is going to take over. Yeah, that's great. However, let's look at the possibilities it has for bringing about equality for the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying? We don't need a concentration of power. We don't need a concentration of who got what. We can actually bring about equality, but that takes leadership. That takes this reverse mentoring where people have this collaborative, again, common unity in goals and ideas and strategy and outcome and things we want to see. And we just need to know, not everybody's your tribe, but you need to find your tribe quickly so that we can help each other succeed.
No, that's perfect. That makes perfect sense.
Amen.
Crawford, amen. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Festus, if you can, for a couple of seconds, I just want you kind of started to go into it, but a little bit more on the difference between mentorship and discipleship.
So if you go back and look historically, where did mentorship come from? Mentorship came from a Greek ideology in which a poor family or family that is not well-to-do would take their young person and place them with somebody who is more well-to-do for training. And obviously, since this person was not able to provide financially, it usually ended up being sexual, right? So in order to be, you take your kid, put them with a quote unquote person of influence, and that person of influence would then get sexual favors from such kid and in return be taught certain things, right? Was that always the case? No, it wasn't always the case, but it's Greco-Roman. That's just what it is. Now, if you fast forward and you talk about something like, for example, discipleship, there's two key elements that came from that, which was mentorship and apprenticeship, which was that's discipleship is disciplining, right? That's where we get the word discipline from, is I'm teaching you a particular discipline alongside of teaching you about life, right?
Hey, LYS fam, it's Olay. Just wanted to take a quick break to let you know that even though the cost of college can be daunting, the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook can assist you in realizing your dreams. You can identify and apply for scholarships using the information, advice, and resources in our comprehensive guide. Also, we've provided a template for a successful scholarship essay to help you stand out from the crowd. Don't allow student loan debt to control you. Get your copy of the LYS Scholarship Guide ebook right away to take charge of your destiny. Simply go to lys.com/parents to get your copy today. Now let's get back to that fire conversation.
And so the thing is, in mentorship, maybe you weren't getting a discipline or you weren't getting a skill set, right? You were just getting access. So you're able to be part of my whatever I got going on. Well, in discipleship, it was like, yo, I'm gonna teach you to a certain point, and then you need to go do your thing, right? And so this is actually still the common Jewish structure in terms of like rabbis and teachers. Your parent may teach you your particular livelihood skill set, but your rabbi is teaching you about life and about living and just this robust learning style, right? Which would carry on society, right? So literally, if you go in Israel today, you'll see an older guy walking around with 3-4 young guys. You know what I mean? On almost every corner. You don't see like what we see today, a lot of people who's walking the streets and they're walking kind of alone. You know what I'm saying? You would usually see 3 or 4 young guys walking together, either older guys in front of them, behind them. They're with him, helping him do things, different kinds. Why? Because they're learning. You know what I'm saying? And this is key, especially for those who are homeschooling parents, is that you only know so much. And so you have to find that tribe, right, of other skill sets who, again, are part of your community. You're choosing them into your community to help your kids get to the next step. You know what I mean? Whatever that next step may be, whether it be academically, career-wise, college, relationally, right? Because we, in and of ourselves, do not have all the answers for everything that life throws at us. This is why friends and family and relationships, just different relationships make sense. And where we often are hurt is when we start blurring the lines between certain relationships that shouldn't be blurred otherwise. So I'll land on that.
No. Wonderful. Ambassador, did you have anything you wanted to drop down? And George wanted to drop down?
Oh, shoot, man. I'm just over here listening to the prophets over here speaking, man. Crawford over there saying amen. You know what I'm saying? Got the bishop and the reverend. It's good, man. This stuff is interesting. But no, I was just still thinking about what the Crawford was talking about with the woman, like so many people want help. It's kind of crazy too, because if you think about it, in the moment, a lot of people, they pray for help. And when the help comes, they're upset because the help didn't come how they want it to come. See, because I know why that kid was acting bad. She was probably praying. She probably like, Lord, please let this boy sit down. Then Crawford came, God helped him out, and she was mad about it. So it's just the way our life is. Like people want the help they want to help. It's kind of like you said, we pray, it's like we want something, but it's like we want something, but what we want isn't what we truly needed at the moment. So that stuff is interesting, man. So no, it's been good just listening to y'all boys preach over here.
No, absolutely, man. Like I said, conveying the commonalities. I think that's a big building block. Conveying the commonalities. Before, there were certain things that were never said, but they were implied in communities in certain areas, right? There were certain things like there was certain things that we just knew that we should not do. I had a conversation with my old teacher partner this morning, and she was telling me about a student in the school who, this kid's been moving around. He's been, biting teachers, throwing water bottles, at teachers and things like that. And that's just one example, right? But a lot of times in different schools with kids, they get into these issues, they get into trouble, and the parents don't see the commonality, right? They don't understand the perspective of the teacher. There's not that common understanding. It's a defensive, right? It's almost like that self-esteem thing that we were talking about earlier. So I think really establishing, conveying the commonalities is man, it's so simple, but it's so key. And I think the reason why I keep harping on it is because it's even hard for me to accept the fact that our society is gone down, it's dipped, we've kind of lost sense. Let me say that we've kind of lost sense so much that we don't even understand a lot of foundational aspects of how to interact with each other. We don't understand those things. We don't understand those commonalities. Even before COVID hit, people were always using COVID as an excuse. Oh, COVID made me more of an introvert. This, that, and the. Even before COVID, we've been kind of gearing or nearing that area where we just don't have those commonalities. I used to think about things like National Night Out. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that, where it was almost like the government's way of saying, "Hey, go meet your neighbors, go talk to people." You know, I know one of the teachers at school was telling me about the Boy Scouts and how, you know, their boys are in the Boy Scouts, and how these little things, just these things that we used to have as part of our norm, we don't have them as much, and the effect is seen. So I'm going to say it, conveying the commonalities, establishing, communicating the commonalities is something that I think we should really take with us. That should be like key principle number 45 or something. We may have to add that in there somewhere.
Most def, man. We need to, I think, you know, when we write the book, Laddering Success, the second step, you know, I already got the title in the dome, you know what I'm saying? I definitely think, you know, we need to just maybe just outline a bunch of key principles that people can live by. You know what I mean? Like, again, shout out to Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. I think that just the fact of giving people a kind of guidebook is helpful. But at the same time, you know, for me, I'm always a person who's just like, yo, like getting that word, getting the scriptures, you know what I mean? Because that's the ultimate principle guidebook. And to me, ultimately, if you keep looking at physical people for your answers, you might get some good teachers, who knows? But then some of them might not give you, that great answers, or might lead you astray. And so I think it's just key, man, to again start off by seeking the Lord in whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, he's going to put people in your path. And yeah, you're supposed to learn from people. You know what I mean? It's not supposed to be all robotic. Some people is just going to be naturally like, yo, I see this about this person. Let me learn more about that. But I think the big thing is, you know, we can't always have our walls up and our guards up, because, you know, like I say, you know, you start building that wall of bricks and suddenly the wall becomes a prison, you know? So yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I think that is a wonderful spot for us to end this Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, Facebook, or wherever you get your social media from. Thank you once again for listening to another episode of Edge of Steps, powered by Laddering Your Success. Festus, you want to go ahead and, well, before we close out, thank you as always to our future Dr. Jamart Crawford and the ambassador, Daniel Hill. Festus, go ahead and close us out.
Listen, there are legitimate excuses for not going to college. There's no legitimate excuse for not having an education. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.
Y'all take care now. Oh, you still there? Well, thank you so much for listening to the LYS Podcast.